how do you find out what you're called to do? Two things, either by what you absolutely love to do or what you absolutely hate to see. Whatever you believe in, you're right. So if you believe you can do something, you're right. If you believe you cannot do something, you're also right. Having become an entrepreneur, I can tell you again as a Christian that that's where my faith really rose up even higher, because you truly have to walk by faith. You don't know, as you don't know, how the day is gonna go, but you just know that everything will always work out. Some people don't ever go to school and they're smart people. Some people are smarter than I am and they never had or will never get a doctorate degree. I just think that if you let anything block you, it will. But if you really want to do that thing and you pursue it, especially here in the US, you are able to do it. Yes, you might find some roadblocks, but if you're strong-willed enough and you really put in the rep, you make it.
Hello and welcome back to the Unbounded Growth. My name is Marc-Alain. I'm your host. And here today with a new episode with one of the special guests that we have here. But before we get to her, if your first time here, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. If you have not been to any of our pages or our website, it's www.unboundedgrowth.org if you want to learn more about us. A big shout out to our sponsor, Judith, for all the help, for helping us to keep these episodes coming to you free of charge every month, every single week, at least once a month. I know we've been struggling a lot with our schedule, especially toward the end of last year. We've been having a lot of issues with hearing, but this year, as we're starting this new year 2024, we are going to be making an effort to be on air at least twice a month. That we'll be here, but again, we'll be keeping our newsletter coming to you every single week as we have since the end of last year. And of course, if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, it's www.unboundedgrowth.org/subscribe, so you can be receiving growth nuggets every single week to help you grow yourself, grow your business, and grow in leadership and communication. With that being said, today's guest is actually our first guest that's an immigrant like Adam and I. She came to this country many years ago, and she was very young with a dream and a lot of ambitions. We are going to learn today about her dream, her passion, about being one of the fewest female dentists in the DFW Metroplex, not only the DFW Metroplex, but also in the United States. We read some statistics that are very interesting that we learn about the percentage of Black female dentists in the United States. And we learned about her story, how she's striving into that industry, and a little bit more about her. Friends, it's great to have you here, and please help me welcome Dr. Valerie. Dr. Valerie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today.
No, thank you for being here. It's actually an absolute pleasure. And I don't know if I told you this, but of all the guests that we have in the past, you're the first immigrant guest that we're having here. So I'm pretty excited because I feel like you know the struggle. you know the stories and everything that we go through as immigrants. But also, I think one thing that's very inspiring about your story, how far you've gone in this land, the things that you've been able to achieve. So let's get started from the beginning, your journey. When do you migrate to the United States?
So I arrived in the U.S. August 26, 1995.
Wow, that's 28 years now.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. And the whole time, have you been in the great state of Texas, or were you somewhere else?
No, actually, I was not in Texas. So when I first came here, my parents sent me to the U.S. to pursue my studies because there was a lot of unrest in Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo, there was so much, strike at the university. Mm-hmm. So since he had the opportunity, he sent us to come and study here. So he sent me to South Carolina to start my English learning program, ESL. Mm-hmm. And that's where I was. And then, from then on, I went on to pursue my bachelor degree in Louisiana. And it's later on that I ended up in Texas, just in short.
Wow. And you pursue your bachelor's degree. That was a degree in biology? Was that
yes,
right?
Biology. Yes.
When you came to the United States, did you come in with intention to go to dental school, or was that something that became your passion after you had landed here?
So that's something, I did not come here with the intention of becoming a dentist. However, I did come here with the thought that I was going to become a physician. So growing up, I always wanted to be a medical doctor, and that's what I thought I came to do here when I came. So that's the reason why, I studied biology, not only just because I love biology, but really because at the time, all they told us was, if you want to go to medical school, you have to do biology or chemistry, which ended up not truly being true. You just have to do your prerequisite, and then, you can study whatever you want. But I did biology as a major.
What you're trying to tell me right now is that I've been lied the whole time. Because until you mentioned it, I've actually always thought that if you want to go to med school, you kind of need a degree in some biology or something.
No, you actually do not. To go in medical school, you do not have to do biology. You can do whatever you want. You can do drawing, you can do history, you can do English, you can do music, you can do biology, or you can do chemistry. You can do whatever you want as long as you have taken the pre-required classes to be able to take the MCAT. Or it's the same for dentistry as well. In order to take the DAT, you have to take those classes, and they kind of like are about the same core classes that you have to take, and then you can do whatever you want.
Interesting. Now, knowing what you know right now, if you were to, let's roll back 1995, you know what you know right now. If you're not doing biology, what would you have done in college?
It's funny you ask, because I felt when I found out that I didn't have to do biology, I wanted to do something else. And so I wanted to do exercise and sports science. And for some odd reasons, my dad was like, no, if you do that, I will not support you, because he's the one who supported my studies. And so I was like, that's weird. Like, why would he not want to? And, being a little stubborn, I was like, okay, I'm still going to take the classes. I took a class and I was like, no, I don't like this. So sometimes, parents know a thing or two. Sometimes they don't really know why they don't want us to do something, but I think somehow God is often behind, what they do. But yeah, so then I ended up doing biology. And while I was studying for my DAT, dental admission test, I realized that I absolutely love biology. And when I studied biology, and me being a Christian as well, I was able to find God even more in biology, and I started worshiping God with my biology course. So I would be like studying something about the cell, and I'm like, you're the one who made this. And that's how I would even return the material. Wow. So yeah. Biology is what I would pick again.
Amazing. That's very interesting. And we're going to go back to that conversation about finding God in biology and the cell. I've been writing and thinking a lot about something, the cycle of life, for example. And I was learning a few things. Adam mentioned that in one of our latest episode, where he talked about the cycle of life in biology and how everything in biology is kind of cyclic. There's always this cycle that repeats itself. And I'll definitely love to learn more about that. I'll tell you one thing for sure, I don't love biology. The joke that a lady we talked to a few years ago, she told us, if you're in college, make sure you stay away from all the allergies. Biology, psychology, sociology, all the allergies. And I kept that in good advice for me. So, but I'm not against you. I'm not against you. All right. So you say you wanted to go to med school, but then you end up in dentist school. What changed that?
Okay, so to be honest with you, after I graduated, I still didn't, because something happened in school. We had an advisor. One of my friend and I wanted to do medical school, and we were discouraged by one of our advisor, who looked at us and he was like, no, you should not do medical school because you're a foreigner, and maybe you should pick something else. And so that kind of like discouraged us. So I became lost for a little while, not truly knowing what I wanted to do. In fact, when I finished, I started taking a few classes. I took some computer classes, took Pascal's programming, and I struggled through, got a B. But then after that, I was like, okay. So then I took C, and I was like, you know what? I'm not wired like this. I don't.
Yeah,
No, this
I don't know
is
why.
not.
I don't know why you took C.
I
Like
don't
of all the
know.
things you should have taken, take something else, not C.
See, I don't know anything about anything. So yeah, and I was like, no, my brain is not wired like this. I'm not, I'm not like so into computers anyway. I use them, but I'm not like in computer savvy by any means, but it's what they said paid. So I thought maybe I would try it out, and I was like, no. So one day, I am actually walking, going towards the library, and funny enough, and many people might think that's weird, but I was just walking, and I just heard a voice within me saying dentistry. And I said, dentistry? Okay.
So until that point, you never thought about dentistry at all?
Never thought about dentistry. So now I'm like, okay, let's figure out this whole dentistry thing. And so now, I need to apply, I need to study for the test, but to apply, I can't just say, I believe God told me I need to do dentistry. So I'm now like trying to figure out why or what I can tell them why I decided to do dentistry. So I'm starting
and that was to convince your parents, right?
No, not to
just
convince my
yourself.
parents. This is to apply for school.
Oh,
they
ask you questions like
yes,
that?
they ask you why did you choose dentistry?
Will an answer like, I just want to make money be valid? Because
I don't know. But I don't know that, you would have been picked as a good candidate if you're just trying to go to make money, even though some people, that's like what motivates them. But at the same time, I think that they have to say something different.
Right.
So I'm now like thinking back, and I'm like, okay, so in my family, there's been a lot of people that had dental problems. A lot of people had cavities, and I always say, like, there was one of my aunts, she had bad breath, lots of cavities, and anytime she would speak or laugh, she would hide her mouth. And so I noticed that. And then myself too, I lost a front tooth at that when I was 15 years old. And so I walk like that. It's only right before I came to the U.S. that I had the benefit of going to a dentist, and they gave me a bridge. So now the bridge that I had was slightly lighter than my own teeth. And I remember one day being like, well, I wish I was a dentist, because if I were, I would have, fixed my own teeth. And yeah, you come to find out you can't really do that on your own, but, wishful thinking. But so some things like that. And also in English, when I listen to people speak in English, I read lips. So clearly I would notice things, people's smiles and things like that, but it never really kicked in.
Right.
Until one day there's someone we're in youth service, and this one girl has so many cavities. And within myself, I'm like, I feel uneasy speaking to this person. And so I'm like, why am I shallow?
Right.
Like, why am I such a shallow person? I'm supposed to be a Christian. Why this and this and that? Later on, while I'm listening to this sermon, and Bishop Jakes, that was my pastor, he talks about how do you find out what you're called to do. And he says two things, either by what you absolutely love to do or what you absolutely hate to see. And so it kicked in.
Okay.
And I was like,
can you say that again? Absolutely what you love to do?
What you love to do or what you hate to see.
That's interesting.
Yes. So, for example, say someone who absolutely love kids and decide to be, maybe like a teacher, elementary school teacher, or maybe like a physician, pediatrist or something. But then also what you hate. Say, for example, somebody that's always like hating it when everything is dirty. And so they can go into, cleaning services or things like that. So in my case, I understood now why I felt uneasy when people did not have a nice smile, because I was gifted with something within me to fix the problem, but I didn't know it at the time. So, so those were some of the reasons. But so myself, my family members, and also like the tipping point is that one of my uncle passes away. I'm in college, and they tell me that he passed away, and it's because he had an infection, and he ended up dying from it. It was a tooth infection, and he ended up having a stroke. And I was like, yeah, maybe
you won't think that teeth will actually cause someone to die.
Right.
I know teeth can be very painful.
Right.
I've had cavities most of my life, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't think the pain was big enough for me to go to dentist school, but yeah, I definitely can relate. But that's kind of like, you don't really think that tooth infection could actually cause you to die.
Right. And so I didn't believe it. I did not believe it at all. It's only when we went to school and we were taught, about the infection, the same blood, same blood that goes within your vein, goes to your heart, goes to your brain, comes from your teeth or go to your teeth. The infection can travel through, causing you problem. It doesn't often happen, but, it's very seldom happen. But it can happen, and it happened to my uncle. So, those were some of the things that I realized later on, that I had been wired all the way, way before I even knew, way before I heard that voice.
That's interesting. You mentioned something earlier on regarding that one advisor that told you, maybe med school is not good for international students or strangers or things of that nature. Do you think that that's still applicable today? Because sometimes I also feel that way about certain fields within the United States as an immigrant, right? Like the challenge of becoming a lawyer or being a newscaster as an immigrant with an accent, How do you think that that's played? Does it still play a role today, or no?
Honestly, I think it depends on the way you look at it. There's this quote that says, and I probably won't say it completely right, but whatever you believe in, you're right. So if you believe you can do something, you're right. If you believe you cannot do something, you're also right. So I believe that your mindset will, deter you from doing something or stir you to do something. I don't believe that truly there's anything that you cannot do. When you speak about law school, I have a friend who's a lawyer. She studied here at SMU, so I don't think so. I just think that if you let anything block you, it will. But if you really want to do that thing and you pursue it, especially here in the U.S., you are able to do it. Yes, you might find some roadblocks. Right. Yes, things like maybe racism or things like that may or may not affect you. But I think that if you're strong-willed enough and you really put in the rep, I think that you can make it.
That's interesting. And now that you talk about this, it really brings me back a lot of flashbacks, a lot of memories, even me being in college and hearing things of that nature. Like some professors will be honest with you, an immigrant, you want to do engineering, you want to do certain fields that, are going to give you money, but also going to give you the job. But it's a very interesting point that you bring up about having the will to do something. When you have enough will to do it, then I believe eventually it plays to your favor.
Because even when you speak about broadcasting, slowly, you see more, foreigners in the field. You see Indians, they might not have heavy accents, but at the same time, if somebody is speaking like, for example, like a French person, they don't try to hide their accent or to, switch it. They speak the way they speak and people accept them for who they are. And I think that eventually this is where we're going to go. To where it's going to be accepted.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think as a country, talking about the U.S., we are moving in the right direction. There's a lot of barriers that keep on falling, and things are definitely getting better. Even 2023 with everything, 2022, 2021, especially 2020, with everything that happened in the media, that certain things that we didn't used to talk about
Yeah.
are now being spoken about, and
Correct.
people are taking action about it. And personally, yeah, I strongly believe that we are moving in the right direction
I think so
as a
too.
country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, talking about your the time you graduated to the time you go to dental school, how long was that?
It was about, so I finished in 2000, and so it's only in 2006 that I'm actually going to dental school.
What were you doing in between?
I was working in a lab, in a biology lab.
How would you like it?
I did not. I did not like it. When I was in New Orleans, it was okay.
Yeah.
You know, the lab that I was working in was okay. I liked the people I was working with. But I knew that I was to go to dental school. So, but I really liked it. Where I really did not like it was when I came to Texas, because we, in 2005, is with Hurricane Katrina. That's how we end up in Texas.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we were evacuees. We evacuated, and we thought it was just going to be like a short trip, and it didn't. It ended up being something where we actually stayed. So then I found a lab here. And that's where I actually started going here, and I just did not like the way they treated me at the lab.
What was that relocation like for you? Because, I mean, you're an immigrant. You've pretty much relocated your whole life, and you're comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Especially in your skin. But moving from Louisiana to Texas, especially that it wasn't a decision that you made. God, Mother Nature decided for you to move down here. Even after you move here, why did you decide to stay? You could have gone somewhere else.
Okay, yeah. So me moving is not truly a challenge for me, because first, I was not even born in Congo. I was born in Belgium.
Wow.
And so
that I didn't know.
Yes, I was born in Belgium, and my dad was doing his PhD. My mom was doing her nursing school there. And so it's when my father finished and my mom had been done that after finishing his PhD, we now moved to Congo. And so after that, we moved to the U.S. And even in the U.S., I keep moving from one place to another
I hope you're not moving away from Texas, are you?
Not anytime soon.
All right, that's
not
what we're
anytime
sure.
soon. But it wasn't too challenging, like moving. It was hard for us to move. Why? Because we had everything there. We had an apartment at the time, and after the hurricane hit, now we are told we cannot go back because the area had been flooded in. And in fact, like, everything was supposed to be, rebuilt. Things were just damaged, and it was unhealthy now to go back and move. So we, by force, ended up staying here. So I did also not study dentistry here in Texas. I studied in Tennessee, in Memphis,
did you move
Tennessee.
Again, or?
Yes, so I moved again from here to Memphis, Tennessee to go and study. And after Memphis, Tennessee, I moved again to go to New York. And going to New York, and while I was here, something nudged me. I always knew I would just be back here. I absolutely love my church and the Potter's House, and I knew I was going to come back. So even when I went to New York, it was the intent to do my residency program. Yeah. It was still with the intent of coming back, and eventually I came and I was able to find a job and come back indeed.
Now, let's go back to the story where you talk about you moving here, and then you're in the lab in Texas, and you don't like the way you're being treated. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I was working as a lab tech in one lab in Grand Prairie, and I won't name the lab, but I was working there.
It's okay, I can tell you the name after this.
and it's like they pretended that I was too slow. that I was not doing my work fast enough because I was getting so much overtime. But when you looked at things though, because when you were doing the experiment, we were working on food and find out the nutritional value of the food that we were testing to say maybe there's such percentage of gram of fat and this and this and that. So you have to prepare the food when you come in, you have to get it out, prepare them. It takes some time to get all the samples together, to not mix them up and all of that. But then even while you have to heat it up now, there's a certain amount of time that it has to be, cooking.
Right.
And so you can't shortcut. You can't make any shortcut. It has to be that. And then after that, you have to weigh everything and all of that. So when you really looked at all that process, it took longer than what they said that it took when they were doing it. And yeah, that's what it was. They always made me feel like I was inadequate. Like I was taking too long to do the experiment where I was doing it right. I don't know if they took shortcuts, probably did, but I was doing it right.
Did that ever affect you outside of work? Thinking like the pressure going within the work industry start affecting your life outside of work?
It did, actually, because it made me just feel kind of down, like, I wasn't appreciated, or, I was being made feel like I was belittled, like I wasn't, effective. And so it affected me. I was very sad.
And how did you overcome that? Because even after you leave the place, you still have the feeling that you still feel what the place made you feel like. How did you overcome that after leaving that place?
I had a good support system. So I had people around me that always told me, my value and my worth. One of them is my spiritual father, and who is also one of my mentors and coach. And so, he was always, telling me that, no, I'm good enough. You can do it. Making me see what lied within me. Yes. And also, my parents and some of my friends. So I had a good support system.
That's amazing. I was having this discussion with my wife, Plamidi, the other day. Sometimes we don't realize that sometimes things that we experience at work can affect us beyond work.
Correct.
And that's why I'm always try to be an advocate of healthy work environment, a place where people are okay to be themselves.
Yeah.
People are comfortable, and where I always believe that you can tell someone a mistake they've made without belittling them, without making them feel as if they were stupid, without making them feel as if, they are inadequate in all their areas of their lives. I remember I was working in this one company, and this guy literally tells me, I don't even know how you've made it this far in your career. And I looked at him, I was like, okay, if I've made it this far in my career, that means someone saw a value in me.
Exactly.
If you're not seeing
that
it,
was such a good comeback.
that's on you. If you're not seeing it, that's on you. But if you want me to give you the reference of my previous employers, I can do that. And all of them will tell you the same story. Yeah. And I think it's something that, talking about a support system is very crucial and important to have people around you that always remind you of your value and things like that, because it can negatively affect you. Instead, you're a doctor, and stress has never been healthy in so many ways. But anyways, I thought that was very interesting.
And I felt the same thing in one of the clinic. I had an attending doctor that was just so rough with me, honestly. Like, I don't know. And I can't say that it's because I was Black, because there was another Haitian girl that was in the same group. But clearly, everyone knew, all the assistants knew that he didn't really like me. Like, he would make exception for others. But for me, it was like if I, say, for example, we were not supposed to treat a patient that came with a child. So they would just come do the exam and then come another day without. So So when it was my case, it had to be reinforced or enforced. But when it was somebody else, it'd be like, oh, no, we can see it with the baby over here. And I'm
Wow.
like, what is really going on? Am I really going to finish this program? Same support system. No, you can do it. There's a problem with that particular person. And then just made it through. And it's weird because I went back to the clinic years back and they find out now that, you know, I'm working in Texas and all of this. And he's very nice now. Like, like he forgot what happened.
Like everything
and
that
the
happened.
same assistant were like, I don't know what happened to this doctor. Like, is it the same? It was weird. It was weird. And same thing. It just made me feel very like, you know, and appreciated and, you know, like scared. Am I even going to graduate this program? But, you know, eventually, you know, it worked out.
Wow. Now let's talk about that. You work at this lab, you leave, and you decide to go to dental school. What is the journey in dental school like for you? I mean, what are the challenges that you're facing? Was it just something a walk in the park, or was it something that at some point is like, you know, I don't know if I want to do this? And then talking about even your representation, you're probably working in a school where you're the only person who looks like you, who sounds like you, who talks like you. How do you go through that whole process?
So I actually did not leave and apply to dental school, but I actually was applying while I was at the job in the lab. And then I got accepted and I never told them anything until my 2 weeks notice. And so now they're like, oh, so you're going? I'm like, yes, I'm going to go to dental school. Oh, congratulations. and it's like, oh, so how long? I'm like, oh, I've been accepted. I didn't want to tell them how long. I just said, oh, well, I found out I've been accepted. So in 2 weeks, I'll be going to start. Well, good for you. We wish you the best. But anyway, so I got to dental school. And in my class, I was fortunate enough to have quite a few, you know, people of color or African American, and one of them was she was from Somalia. So I was, in a sense, not alone, but in a sense alone as well, because I was the only one that actually spoke French. So it was not a walk in the park. It was very hard for me. And that's when I realized that, in fact, English not being my first language
Can be a challenge.
was a challenge. When I was in college, it was not. Well, it was only in one. It was not, but only in one class, zoology class.
Right.
I, first of all, don't understand names of species, even dogs or things like that, like different breeds. I don't know these things. And so now...
I know dogs. Like this dog, right?
Yeah, just in general.
Like,
I know German
people.
Shepherd, boxers, but like all the other ones.
Like German Shepherd, I don't even know what it looks like. I just know it's a dog, right?
And so, like, you know, it was challenging for that class. I was advised to take my classmates' notes and study from them. And thank God I was able to pass that class doing that, because I didn't even know how to write the name of these species. But anyway, so now in dental school, we have to learn technical terms. And so I'm like, okay, so there's the cusp. And I'm like, what's a cusp? Like, I don't even understand the term itself in English. And so I have to work extra hard just because I have to understand first the thing in English in order to understand what they're talking about.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I've always told people, English not being my first language as well, you don't realize how many efforts sometimes we have to make just to learn. The first time, I've torn both Achilles. That's why I retired from basketball. I'm not playing anymore. But the first time I tore my Achilles, I knew what it was. If you ask me that in French, I'll tell you like in a heartbeat. I know it's, you know, my tendon d'Achille. But then people are asking me, what's going on? I'm like, I think it's my ankle. Because I can't remember the name. I cannot fathom how challenging that can be in medical school. Today, I believe I'm pretty much fluent in English. But if you take me to your office and start naming some of this stuff, what do you call this? I can tell you the name in French in a heartbeat, but finding the name in English and all that can really becoming challenging. And I just can't imagine what it was like for you, just, trying to study all those terms. I would have given up.
Yeah. Yeah, probably you would probably not give up. but yeah, so it was challenging. It was challenging not only because the course load is heavy. If I thought that we studied a lot in when doing my bachelor, now in dentistry, it was extra hard. Like, first of all, I think we had about 11 classes first semester. I'm saying 11 classes for about 40 plus credits.
Yeah, I'll take 4 classes on that.
And I'm like, I never knew you could actually study that much. And then also, the second year of our program, they switched the whole process, the whole kind of the way they were testing. So now we're going to have one test for all these different classes. And so, some classes had maybe 3 questions. Do you understand that if you
Explain that again.
Yeah.
You're talking about 11 classes. And you have to sit down.
Second year. So I think second year was maybe about 10 classes
10 classes. So. And you have to sit down, take one test that covers all 10 classes? Wow.
That was a challenge for me.
Yeah, I'll pay a dentist. I don't want to be one. Yeah.
That was a challenge for me. And I don't know that that's what my school decided to do. And I will be transparent with you. Actually, I did not end up making it. I had to repeat. Wow. I had to repeat the class. And I mean, when I tell you, I was depressed because that had been the first time ever in my entire life that I repeated a course. And for some reason, I never liked to share it until one time this year, somebody was going to do kind of like an interview like this. And I'm like, okay, they were talking about what kind of challenges did you go through? And I'm like going through because they, told me what kind of questions they were going to ask. And I'm driving, going home to go and get ready for this interview. And the Lord is like, you will be talking about how you repeated a year. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I guess you will. Because that is going to set someone free. Somebody that think that they have to be the perfect candidate. And so I decided to do the same thing today. This is the second time that I will, because that's something that I was always hiding, And like I said, this repeating a year does not mean that I was not smart. It's just that I had to learn another way of doing things, right? Because as I was saying, there was a class where we had maybe like 3 questions. So you understand that if you miss one question, you already failed. Right? For the whole course. So later on, when I repeated the year, I did well. I did much better. I became a much better student. Now I studied, because before I studied, because you have to be very strategic depending on where you want to go in life. Right. So even studying, I now learned that because before I wanted to understand the contour et pourtour in French. So like the all
ins
the
and outs
the ins and outs, thank you, of the subject. But now I'm like, no, we have to study to pass this test. I have to understand the psychology of the professor, what he wants me to retain in order to succeed in this class. Because at the end of the day, when we study here, there's so much information that are being bombarded, that comes to you at once. But there's only a small portion of all these things that you would use, on a daily basis. Like, for example, we studied histology, but really, unless you're a pathologist, when is the day that you're going to see a patient and you see like a slide of this, of this cell? Right. It doesn't happen. So and now I start studying according to what they want me to know, not just like trying to retain everything, though I understand things.
This is very interesting, Dr. V, that you're talking about this, being strategic about everything in life, especially even our decisions. I remember first time I got introduced to speed reading by Jim Quick. He posed a challenge. He asked a question. He said, what does it mean to understand the book?
Mm.
And in my head, I was like, well, you can recite the book like a parish or something like that. You can say everything about the book. And then, of course, it was a rhetorical question. And then he says, understanding a book is getting the information you need out of that book.
I like
If
that.
you've got the information that you need
Correct.
out of that book, even if you read the whole book, then you've understood the book. Because the reality is that you're not going to retain every single bit of information in a book. As a matter of fact, Zig Ziglar used to say that in every book, there is only about 15 to 20% of information you need. And that 15 to 20% actually makes a difference. And it helped me go past the limitation of wanting to literally cram every single line in a book to say that I've understood the book.
Right.
But now I can read a book, I can tell you the summary of the book, but just in as much as I understand based on the information that I was looking for. And as you said, in life, most of the times, we get what we look for. I usually joke about this in our church. I say, everybody walks in the church. We see different things when we walk in. Having worked in the media for a few years now, when I walk in, I'm by the door of the church. I can already hear the sound. And that's what I'm paying attention to, right?
Right.
When I come in, I'm already looking at the cameras, at the angles. I'm looking at the lighting. I'm looking at all that. When I walk in the church, that's the first thing that I'm paying attention to. And it's the same thing when, you buy a Camry and all of a sudden, you start noticing Camrys on the street.
Correct.
Did they just appear out of nowhere? No, it's because we start paying attention to those. So I really like the fact that you're mentioning that we need to be strategic in school. I think that's also a technique I applied personally when I was in college, just to tell people, some classes will not serve me after this. Like calculus, I've been out of college for 6 years, at least out of my bachelor's, and I've not used calculus a single day in my life. Yeah, it helps and stuff like that. So that's a very good point. But I'm curious to know, why didn't you ever want to share that you had repeated a year?
Because why would I want to portray myself as a failure? I felt like failing or repeating a year was a failure. Because so growing up, right, like my father is a professor at the University of Kinshasa.
That's
and
challenging.
He's really by the book. He's really like, you have to do well. Most of our parents back home, they were born in the village, a lot of them.
Yes.
And so now education is their way out. And so they went to go like all the way to the top for a lot of them, right? And so that's how they saw life. I remember when I was in elementary school, my father, he traveled a lot, right? And so we would write him letters, and he would send me back the letters, and he would write in red where I made a mistake.
Oh, that's
where
mean.
I made a mistake.
That's mean.
It's because he wanted me to learn so that I know how to. Yeah. And so that's why, like me and like writing, I like to really write well. Right. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
From that. But then you come from that kind of background whereby, like for example, my older brother, really smart guy, right? And so he was either always at the top of his class anyway, either the first one or among the 3 first people in his class. And so say, for example, you know how it goes in our country, 70% is great. Like you're brilliant, right? It's not like, it's not the equivalent of a C.
Right.
So he would come with like 70%, which is the equivalent of probably like an A- or something, or A. And my dad was like, yes, but you were the second one in the class.
Wow.
Right? Or like he'll come with maybe 69%, which is still brilliant. And now he's the first one. Yeah, but you can be first out of like dumb people. You know what I mean? Like kind of like how do you win? So that's how I grew up, like understanding education, was it. And, you have to prove yourself, by, being smart or, doing well in school showed that you were smart. Whereby some people don't ever go to school and they're smart people.
Right.
Some people are smarter than I am and they never had or will never get a doctorate degree. You know what I mean? So, but that's what I thought at the time. So it's only this year, honestly. I guess it was always attached to me some way, even though I know this in my brain, but I think that deep down inside, it was always etched. So it's only when I did that interview that I was like, made to understand that it can help somebody. And so because it can help somebody that feel like they don't amount to anything, or they feel like they feel the way I felt, I'm trying to help somebody now.
But what gave you the motivation to keep going, though? Because, I mean, you just repeated a year, you're done at school, and all of a sudden you feel like you're you're inadequate and you're not good enough to do something. What kept you in dental school?
First of all, I had to sit down that semester and not go proceed with my classmates and rejoin the class coming after me, because I had to repeat the first semester.
Yes.
They wanted to do the second semester, and then I had to rejoin the people from the class behind me, and oh my gosh. But yeah, so what kept me going is the fact that I heard that voice telling me that, remember how I told you dentistry? Yes. I felt dentistry.
Right.
But one more thing though, and like you say, we always get what we seek for. Before I went to dental school, we went to a conference. We went to a conference in Nashville. My spiritual father and I went to a conference in Nashville, Just Mayor's conference. And out of everything, and why is it the day that she talks about one of her program, how she helps little girls that, have had maybe like children at a young age, or people that were strung out on drugs. So now they show the testimony of this one girl. This one girl was using meth. And so her teeth were shot. Like she pretty much had like little bitty teeth, and everything was really black and dark and all that, cavities. And so she shows the story of this girl, young girl, that they were able to help. They were able to connect her to a dentist that restored her smile. This is the weekend before I am to start dental school. Wow. And to me, that's yet another confirmation that is what I'm called to do. Because I don't see a dentistry to me just as a profession. I feel it, and I see it as a calling. A calling that is ascribing the healing side of things when it comes to, to God helping us to be able to provide healing to people. And so I knew deep down inside that that's what I've been called for.
Right.
And I was not, in quote, kicked out of school. I was just asked to sit out and rejoin with the other people. So I went on. I proceeded because that's what I knew deep down inside that I was called to do.
That's interesting. And after that, there's no more repeated semesters.
No. I never repeated after that
you
again.
Never repeat after that.
I never did.
You get done with school, and now comes the residency part of it. That's when you moved to New York, right? And how was that?
I loved it. But the day that I went to do my my interview for the residency program, it was weird because I'm now like in this bus and I'm scared, like my heart is pounding. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do in this city? And I don't even know how to take the train.
New York can be intimidating. I didn't know. I went to New York with my wife. We didn't know how to take the train, so we walked a lot. We walked a lot.
Yeah.
I still remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But anyways.
But while I was scared while being in the bus, because I had taken a hotel in New Jersey, and that's where I was going. And then in the morning, I was going to go back to New York. I was in the Bronx to go to get my interview, to do my interview at Bronx Lebanon Hospital. I was scared, but I was like, you know what? just me being scared it was weird because I felt like this is definitely where I belong. And I knew that because I had a mouth and I could speak, I would make it. Because if I didn't know something, I could ask someone.
Right.
I could ask someone next to me, how do I purchase the ticket, for the, where am I going? And now they're showing me, okay, there's this map, this is how you read the map, and yeah. So it was challenging, but, I knew I would make it.
That's amazing.
I knew I would make it because I had a mouth and I could speak.
That's good. And how many years you end up spending in New York?
New York, just 1 year.
Just
it
a
was
year.
a 1 year program.
Okay. So the residency was like a year. And do you become like a doctor right after that? After your residency?
In fact, to me, the reason why I went to residency is because I felt like I wasn't equipped enough to go right away. Because the difference between dental school and medical school is that in dental school, we work on patients while we are in school.
Really?
We do all the procedures that we do as a dentist, we do it in dental school on actual patients. So we're not just observing, we're actually doing procedures. So we are doing fillings, we are doing crowns, we're doing root canals, we're doing everything, extraction, we do everything, dentures. We do it in school. But I felt like I was not gonna make it without going for more, school. But it wasn't true. Again, it was, something I told myself that I probably was not going to be able to make it without getting exposed some more.
So in dental school, like if you graduate from dental school, can you already work as a dentist?
Yes.
Right out of school?
Yes.
Wow.
Some of my classmates did. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow. That's definitely a lot to learn every single day. When you leave New York, what was your next destination? Did you go back to Memphis or you came down to Texas?
No, Dallas, Texas.
You came Dallas. And you started working for some hospital?
I worked for a clinic.
When was that?
That was, so I came back in 2012.
Okay.
2012. Yeah. And before I finished my program, while I was there, I had one of my friends, which was in my first class. She had she was from Texas. So after she graduated, she came here and she started working. So now she was leaving to do a specialty in to become like a kids doctor, a pedodontist. And so those are doctors that only take care of kids. And so now she had to find somebody to replace her. And while I was looking to see, I wanted to find an opportunity in Dallas. And we spoke. And she told me about, her job. And then I applied and I got in.
Okay. And how long did you stay at a clinic for?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half?
I think so. About a year and a half. Yeah.
When do you start your own practice? I think that's something I didn't mention in the introduction, is that she's an entrepreneur doctor. Like, that was the first time I actually heard that term being coined, an entrepreneur doctor. So how do you start I hate to call it business, but
it is a business.
It's a business.
Yes.
How do you start your business?
So after, I always knew that I would have my own practice. I just didn't know when. So,
so that's something you wanted to do intentionally. Yes.
I always wanted to have my own office. And so now, I worked for that particular company, and then after that one, I worked for another one, and then another one, and then I opened my practice in May 2016.
Wow! So you work for other companies for other clinics for other
about
practices.
4 years.
I think that's what y'all call it in your field. You work for other practices for about 4 years, and then you open your own practice. What challenge do you face? Is it something that, you already had enough knowledge to do that? Or did you take a step of faith and you launched yourself into it?
A step of faith. A step of faith stemming from the fact that I now had been too uncomfortable. uncomfortable to continue working for other people.
What was the issue working for other people? I mean, you make good money. You don't have to stress about who shows up at work, who doesn't. You don't have to stress about payroll and stuff like that. You have your vacation and all that. What was the problem?
Well, you do have different types of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So the first company that I worked for, they were now telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they were training office managers to tell you what to do as a doctor, to tell you what procedures to do.
And those office managers, were they doctors?
They were not.
Okay, that's already something that we stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and another thing too, in one of the companies, because he had several different offices, and so the one that I was at the most, we were three. There were three of us. One of them had 12 years of experience. The other one 3, and I had just came out. And I was constantly being compared to the other ones. They're producing this much. Why are you producing this little? Obviously, they had more experience. They got time to be more, to do things faster because they've been doing that for so many years.
I'm sorry, this is kind of funny that you mentioned. Like, we talk about producing, treating people like just numbers in a factory or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
So the second company was not quite like that. Except for one time now, this one doctor complained because somehow coming from this other one where I got to be faster, now she's complaining that I'm seeing more patients than she is. She complained to this one office manager. And so the office manager turns her back on me.
I guess you can't win.
Huh?
I guess you can't win.
Can you? And so that was the second office. And then the third one, I was fine. I was the only doctor. There was no comparitis. Nobody was comparing me to anyone. However, the doctor, the owner, was not doing enough marketing. So we did not see enough patients. And that being said, the way we were being paid was based on, you would be paid a percentage of the procedures that you did. So that was challenging. And I decided, no, I need to open my own practice. For one thing, I'll be able to treat my patient the way I want to treat them. I'll be able to do what I see fit to do, but also I can now, I like to treat my patient as family.
Right.
I like to treat them with care. I'd like to treat them like I would treat my parents, like I would treat my mom. And so now I can do that. I can treat them with care. I can talk to them. I can, if I want to, I can, listen to them.
Right.
I can, make that time. Yeah.
And the process about starting your own practice, what gave you the faith that you're going to succeed? I mean, we're looking at numbers. There's only about 36% of dentists in the United States that are female. And now the 36%, when we talk about black female, the number drops to like 1.3 or 1.4%. What made you believe that you could succeed in an industry that's not very dominated with people like you?
Okay, so I think it's the way I'm wired. Because first of all, I was born in Belgium. In my class, I experienced racism. There was this girl that was always bullying me and laughing at my hair and all of this. And I remember when I was very, very little, my mom would braid my hair with thread.
Right.
And then when you undo them, I always wanted to be like white folks, right? Growing up, because I thought that was the standard of beauty. So when my mom would undo my hair, it would lay down and it would kind of like bounce up and down.
Right.
And I was like, ooh, I'm so pretty, right? And so one day I got bullied and my dad noticed that. So he said, you will not have that hairstyle again. But, he was like, when people speak to you, you need to speak back. So now, like, if people, insulted us and they're like, you black like chocolate, we're like, well, you're like a white chocolate, and things like that. So now we learn, how to, so growing up, our parents, and even me from my ethnic group, I am of the Tetela ethnic group, right? And so there's this one saying that says, Otetela ke mafumbe, which means that Batetelas, they are now slaves. So you can't dominate them, right? So we're very strong-willed just in general. So I learned to fight back. And then another thing is that being a Christian, right? And being a Christian, I know that God is on my side.
Right.
And if he calls me to do something, I have all the backup I need to be able to do that thing. There is nothing that will stop me from accomplishing what he called me to do. Whether if and I feel like, you know, so even though I know that, say for example, racism exists in this country and I have experienced it, I know that it's not going to stop me to do or to become what I need to do or what I need to become. To me, for example, in the job that I had in New Orleans, the people were quite, you know, they were racist, but like covert, right? So there were a few other African American I worked with,
Right.
and there, you know, to get like a raise, it was always like a challenge. I know one of my friends,
Right.
she barely had a raise for some time. I worked there for about, what was it, for about 4 years or so, for almost 5 years. And at some point, you know, she maxed out on her raise.
Right.
But with me, when I felt like, okay, God, I need a raise, I'll be like, God, I need a raise. I'll pray. And then next thing you know, it wasn't the next day, but they will call me in and give me a raise.
Wow.
So I know that, you know, with me, if I need something, I know who to go and ask. And I know that nothing is going to stop me doing what he wants me to do. So I never saw racism as something, you know, that would stop me, even though sometimes it does affect me. For example, when I opened my practice for a long time, I did not want to put my picture anywhere. Because I felt like, okay, people will know that I am Black,
Right.
and then they won't come, right? And so for many, many, many years, I did that thing. I never put my picture on my website. It was just Healing Wings Dental, and my pictures were nowhere. It was nowhere. One day I'm speaking to my younger brother, and my brother Eve, and he's like, and I tell him this thing. He's like, but Val, like, think about it. What do you think people think when they see your name? And I'm like, oh. Seeing my name more time than none, they know you're African, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So now I decide, you know what? Let's go of this thing completely. So even though I say, you know, I did not let those kind of challenges affect me for the most part, in some things it kind of affect you sometimes. Yeah. But I always try to go above that.
Above it. That's interesting. I mean, talking about not putting your picture on any of your stuff, I remember a few years ago I saw one of your flyers and I was showing it to you this morning. I was like, man, I didn't even know that.
My picture was not on
I
it.
saw the flyer, right? I saw the flyer, and then a few years later, I met you. I never made the connection. And then one day I come back to church, and I look at the flyer, I was like, wait, this is Dr. Valerie's practice, you know? And the flyer's been sitting at church for a few years. I was like, man, I could have never made the connection.
Right.
That's interesting. Now, what are the things that, you know, as a dentist, were kind of required for you to start your own practice? Because, of course, you're not doing everything by yourself. You're hiring people, and you need some like X-ray machines and stuff like that. How do you find all that?
Oh yeah, so information is very, very important. Initially, I had before I opened my practice, and knowing that I wanted to open my practice, I spoke to someone, and he said, you need to at least have $100,000. And then I come and relay the information to my spiritual father, who is he's very savvy in you know, businesses and such, and he tells me, no, I don't think that information is accurate. You don't need that. And I didn't have it. He said, you don't need that. This is not true. And we will not believe that this is true. Right? So I think about 1 year later, I'm at my third job now. And it's very funny how, like, you know, things are orchestrated for your good. So I'm now, it's summer, and we need to do many courses. We need to do continuing education courses, and for that and we have to have like a certain amount of credit per year. And for that year, I now realize, oh gosh, I barely have any CE courses. So now there was a conference going on that one of the rep that came to sell products came in, and he told me that the conference was going to happen. So I went to that conference, and for the sole purpose of getting my CE courses. And they have a lot of vendors that sell many different things. You have banks, you have everybody like that. And so now I met this one group that helped doctors open the practice. They help medical doctors or physicians, and they also help dentists. And I think some help also veterinarians. So now we are in talks, and I come to find out that I don't need any of that.
Wow.
The fact that I have a degree, the fact that I had also like a good credit, that was enough. So now, they helped me and guided me through all the process. I was able to get a loan to actually open my practice.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
I did not need $100,000. I did need to have a certain amount,
right,
but not that much.
That's amazing. Now, where do you find your people when you start working? Where do you find the people that you want to hire being new in the field?
So I had very good relationships I've always had good relationship with assistants. I'm kind of a person that I am more on the side of the underdog.
Right.
Or like people who don't have very big position or top positions.
Yes.
I feel very comfortable with them, which is the reason why, for example, remember when I told you about that particular office manager that now turned her back on me?
Right.
I would come to work and they would say, this is what she said about you. This is what she said about you.
Right.
But basically, I built really good relationship with them, and I was able to get some of these people to come and work with me.
That's amazing. Those are the same people you've been working with since you opened your practice?
No. One of them, no. I've changed people. One of them, some of them through because of family problems, and then some of them because of because of COVID, the pandemic, and some of them sometimes they have some situation happening in their lives that they have to move or they have to stop. So
Agreed.
I'm not with the same people.
As a leader, as a hiring person, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, what do you look for when you wanting to hire someone?
Yeah. So first of all, I want the people that I hire be the people who have the same core value as I do. Because if you hear, for example, excuse me, when you hear people who are like maybe CNAs, right? Certified nurse assistant. When you hear them, like, for example, my mom did that in this country for many years. And many times she felt challenges because as African, we tend to be more caring. I'm not saying that everybody else is not.
Right.
I'm saying that we are usually very caring, especially in the health field, medical field. You will hear that a lot. So I want to be able to really love on my people, my patients, and even my staff. So I want the people to have that same core value. I want people to treat people with care, with respect, right? When they come to the office. So that's very, very important to me. Obviously, they have to have the credentials because in our field, you have to have a license, right? To be an assistant. So I can't hire anybody that does not have or ascribe to have a license. That's on the assistant side. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. We also look for people who can be told what to do and not feel offended. People who are teachable, meaning people who are go-getters, people who are self-starters, so they can have the initiative to start a task and finish a task on their own, but also they need to be able to work as a team as well, because that's very important. Those are some of the key elements I could pinpoint.
That's very good. And as an entrepreneur, what are the challenges that you face? I'll be honest. A lot of entrepreneurs on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, they try to sell us the fact that when you're an entrepreneur, you're free. But are you really? That's the question I always ask them. Are you really? I mean, if you're working from 3 a.m. to 9 p.m., I'm not sure if you're more free than I am. But what are some of the challenges that you face as just as a business owner and entrepreneur?
Yeah, so some of the challenges are that basically everything, in quote, everything goes through you. You have to deal with everything in a sense, unless you have, people who, like, if you have because in some offices, they may not have a manager yet that can, kind of like overtake some of these responsibilities. But when it comes to activities, when it comes to treating patients, now you are the one who is in charge.
Are
When
you
it
the only
comes
doctor
to
in your practice
Yes.
right now? Yeah.
Yes, right now I'm the only doctor in my practice. When it comes to payroll, you have to make sure that, you have enough to be able to cover payroll. When there are issues, with your staff, you might have to step in and, to kind of like see what's going on and make sure, things are running smoothly. You are the one to see, that the overhead is taken care of, like all the products that you need, all the instruments that you need, all the equipment that you need. If something breaks down, you are the one. You have to make sure that you do your notes on a daily basis. So like there's a lot that it's not a piece of cake. It's definitely a challenge. But to me, it's a good challenge because I much rather work for myself any day than to have to be told what to do again by somebody else. And also to have to, and I'm not saying that if you work with somebody else or for somebody else, you will always have to, people will always be treated as a number.
Right.
But, in some of the places that I work, I felt like that was what it was. And so, I prefer working for myself. And until, you get to a certain point where maybe you have other doctors working for you that can take on the charge, or like having, many other people that can do things, that you no longer have to do. Like, for example, as I was saying, if you have like an office manager where all the questions are taken to them, and when the person is stuck, now she can come to you, it's a lot of things that you have to oversee. So you have to be an entrepreneur is very good. But you have to make sure that, you stick to it. Having become an entrepreneur, I can tell you again as a Christian that's where my faith really rose up even higher, because you truly have to walk by faith. You don't know. First of all, you don't know what anybody has. You don't know, how the day is gonna go, but you just know that everything will always work out.
Now, how do you manage all that in between dealing with family, your involvement at church? Do you ever take vacation?
I barely take vacation. That's me. Like other doctors do take vacations, but I'm kind of more of a workaholic. So, but no, if you want to take vacations, you really can. But I'm one to not, but I need to start taking more vacation. But you just have to learn how to juggle different things, and learn how to really organize yourself, organize your time. So I am, in a group of doctors where we kind of like learn about the ins and outs of business. And so, we have this thing called a CEO calendar, which is just like a calendar where you can, plug in your time. You know that at this time, this is family time. This is time that I see patients. This is time that I'm going to devote to social media, things like that. But, it's pinpoint. And it doesn't mean that you have to stick to it to the T. And that if something gets missed, you have completely failed, but at least you have something to guide you through. So it's like, I like my spiritual dad like to always say, people say you can only follow one target at a time, but he said, in français, on peut que suivre un seul lièvre à la fois, or you can only follow one, how you call it?
I can't remember. What do you call it? Yeah.
Anyway, it's an animal, okay?
Right.
So you can only
A
follow one
rabbit, one rabbit at
a
a time.
rabbit,
Yeah.
one rabbit at a time. But he says you can follow 10 rabbits at a time if they're going through the same direction.
Right.
So that means that, you know, in your life, maybe you're called to do many different things at once. Like, for example, someone may be, you know, called to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's not even easy because there's a lot that's taken into account to be able to do that job well.
Yeah, when I stay with my boy for a day, I need vacation for a week.
And so you may be called to work and you still have a husband, you still have children. You just have to learn that at this time I'm doing this, on this day I'm doing this, on that day I'm taking care of myself, you know, self-care and all of that. You just have to plan.
No, in your profession as a dentist, is this something that, I mean, you've been to dental school. Well, do you keep learning after you're done with school? Or is it like one of those things where, hey, you've already got the paper, all you have to do is just repeat the same process every single day? And if you keep on learning, what are the things that you're doing for your personal development?
So, no, you always have to keep learning. Why? For one thing, technology is advancing. There's always something to help you do your job better. You have to learn. Right. And there's always something that you can learn, you know? And so in order, and now, you know, as a dentist, for instance, where I am now, it's not just learning in your field, but even in other fields, or at least participate in other fields. For example, when it comes to social media, for example, now, you know, marketing, because before I was like, oh, I just want to be a doctor. I know I'm doing my job well. I don't need to do so much marketing, but you really do. So you need to learn how it's done. You need to learn how, like it's even in social media, you have to establish yourself, you know, as an authority, for example. So these are things that you have to learn. So, you know, you have to learn maybe how to do a video or to do a reel or something like that. You have to keep learning, even though, you know, you need to keep learning about dentistry. You need to keep learning about other things. And so what do I do for my personal development? I take different classes or different courses that has to do with dentistry and also other things.
Wow, very, very, very interesting. I think we'll be getting to the end of this interview. It was really great having you, but we're not done yet. Don't just think that you're off the hook. You know, all right. What do you offer as services at your practice?
We offer many different services. So we do cleanings, we do exams, we do x-rays, we do crowns, we do bridges, we do implants, we do dentures, we do so many things. We do braces as well, Invisalign and other fast braces. We do fast braces and Invisalign. What else do? We do many different things. We do whitening. Yeah, we do many different things, many different procedures, and we treat people of all ages. So we treat kids and also adults.
Awesome. Now, this one is for all of you that love candies and, you know, sugar stuff. What can we do? I mean, I've dealt with cavities my whole life. I tell you, I don't know. At some point, I think maybe in between 2016 and 2019, I believe, I was at a dentist every single month. I mean, I had braces. That's for starters, but still, I had so many teeth removed and all that. How can I better take care of my teeth, my breath, and things like that? What are some of the things the tips you could give people like me?
So, first of all, you want to make sure that you have a good oral hygiene, right? So you need to at least brush twice a day, morning and night. I always tell people night is very important because at night we have less saliva. So saliva kind of like deters bacteria to adhering to your teeth and so and to start causing cavities. So you want to make sure you brush your teeth, especially at night, because at least you will have less of, you know, byproduct that they can use or products that they can use to you know, cause cavity. Because the way that happens is that they feed on the food that you eat, and then the the byproduct that they produce is acid, and acid is not going to create these cavities or holes in your teeth. So you want to make sure you brush really good. But besides that, you also want to make sure that you at least floss once a day, because flossing, what it does is it's going to now reach surfaces of your teeth that the bristles of your toothbrush are too thick to actually reach. Surfaces between your teeth.
Right.
So you're going to do that. You want to make sure that you also brush your tongue, your cheeks, your palate. You don't have to do that every day, but at least once a week. At least once a week, make sure, because you still have, debris that get lodged on your tongue and all those surfaces causing bad breath. You can use mouthwashes. You can use also even, if you're not very good at using actually floss, like string floss, you can use those little flossers.
Right.
They can help too. You want to make sure that you see your dentist at least twice a year.
At least twice a year.
At least twice a year. If you have, you do not have gum disease. If you have gum disease, which is just a fancy term to say you have infection on your gum or the supporting bone, the bone that supports your teeth. If you have issues there, then you have to follow the advice of your doctor. They may ask you to come every three months or maybe every 4 months, depending. So it's going to be at the discretion of your dentist. You want to do those kind of things. That's pretty much basic things that you want to do.
Now, we know one thing for sure. Dentistry or dentist work is not cheap.
And I'm sorry too. And I'm sorry. One more thing. You want to make sure that you decrease the amount of food that you intake, food or drinks that causes cavities. Like you want to decrease, it's sugar is a big problem. So you want to decrease those kind of, products. Also very, very acidic food, like people don't think about it, but like lemon or even oranges, not too much of those, because they can also cause some other problems like sensitivity or erosion on your teeth, whereby you're losing enamel.
Interesting. Yeah, I was saying that we know that dentist work is not cheap. I've been to a dentist. I know it's not cheap. Do you have in your practice anything that help people that do not have insurance?
Yes. So we do have in-house plans. So if you sign up to our plan, you're going to have reduced prices.
Okay.
But also, we also work with third-party vendors, and those would help you. Maybe, you can sign up with them. They would pay for your services, and then you will pay them like you will pay a small portion,
right?
On a monthly basis. So we have different programs. But,
okay,
yeah,
that's interesting. The question that I was about to ask you just answered it. What do you think we should not do?
Yeah, so you want to decrease, the amount of food that and drinks that can create cavities for you, like everything that is very high in sugar content. Believe it or not, even things like cereal or like, different type of bars that they have, or carbonated drinks, things like that. Yeah, you want to kind of like deter from it.
That's pretty interesting. Now, where's your practice? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So if you want to find us, we are located in Arlington, Texas. The name of our practice is Healing Wings Dental, and the address is 4101 West Green Oaks Boulevard, suite number 317. And you can also call us to schedule an appointment. We recommend scheduling an appointment so that you don't come and wait forever, having to wait to come between or after people who already have appointments. So you can call us at 972-213-0202. And also on our website, you can request an appointment, healingwingsdental.com. And we're also on social media. If you type Healing Wings Dental, you will find us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, YouTube as well.
Awesome. We finish up with one thing we like to do at the end of every session: impromptu questions. Not prepared. If you give a good answer, we can follow up on that.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable answering, it's okay.
Okay.
We can give you that. The first one today, I'll probably ask 3 or 4.
Okay.
Your favorite scripture?
My favorite scripture is write your vision and make it plain. And though the vision may tarry, you have to know that it will come to pass. It will certainly come to pass.
Wow. Now, I want to follow up on that. Why is it important to write down the vision?
It's important for one thing. It's almost like when you write it down, you're committed to it. You know, now you know. But there's like something that happens between having it in your brain and having it on your paper. But it's not just having it on your paper. You also have to keep reading on it, right? You have to keep refreshing, keep seeing it. But when you write the vision, it helps you. It's kind of like a guide, like a map, you know, where like it guides you, you know where you're going. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. When you're not doing dental work, what are the things that you like to do?
When I'm not doing dental work, I love to listen to music. I love to serve at church. Yeah, that's pretty much that. I'll say that. I like cooking.
Cooking?
Yeah.
What's your favorite music?
My favorite music. You know what? Like, it's weird because when it comes to favorite things, I always say I don't have a favorite thing.
Right.
But I pretty much only listen to Christian music of any genre. So, I listen to Christian rap, Christian anything I listen to.
Awesome. What are 2 things your husband likes about you?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so he tells me that he likes that I pray a lot. Is one thing that he likes. What else does he like about me? He thinks I'm pretty nice.
You're pretty nice.
He thinks I'm a nice person.
Yeah, you are.
He feels like I'm a caring person.
I can testify to that. Sir, I can definitely testify to that. The last one today, any book or podcast you recommend?
Yes. There is one podcast that I recommend, and that is God and Your Business by Dr. Una. Dr. Una is one of my coaches, and she has this one podcast where she talks about how God and business go together. Because many people feel like, you know, if you're going to do business, there's no way you can mix God in it. But it's not very true. And she has many, like she would use Bible verses to kind of like teach business principles.
Wow. I listened to one of her episodes where she was talking about the mindset shift, about believing that you're the type of person who can do certain things. I think you shared that episode with me. And I think it was very interesting. She said, if you don't believe that you're the type of business owner that can make a 7-figure business, you will never achieve it.
Exactly.
Until you start believing it. Any book recommendations?
Any book recommendation? There's a book that we just finished reading, and it was Maximize Your Potential by Brian Tracy.
Brian Tracy.
Yes, that was a very good book.
I have a copy of it, but I haven't read it.
It's a very good book.
But check it out.
Yes, I think you should do like a book review on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that sounds very interesting. Dr. Valerie, it was really great having you here. Thank you so much for accepting my invite.
Thank you
And
for
I hope
inviting
it
me.
won't be the last time.
I won't be. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. We
Yes.
had fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with this that we be concluding today. Again, if you are still not subscribed to our YouTube channel, is Unbounded Growth, and on every social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, and I think that's the only platform where we are right now. If you need to know more about us, you can visit our website at www.unboundedgrowth.org. And if you want to learn more about us, you can send us an email at info@unboundedgrowth.org. Also, we also still taking your donations. You can donate. As we told you, all the money that we gathering for Unbounded Growth now goes to fund the scholarship for the kids that we're trying to send to school in Congo by teaching them the values of leadership, personal development, to make sure that we raise the next generations of leaders, not only in Congo but around the world. We are also starting to give some scholarships here next year to help students here going to college, especially in neighborhoods where there's not a lot of opportunities opportunities and where a lot of kids are not going to college because maybe they're misinformed or they don't have enough information. We are also going to start reaching out to those neighborhoods to encourage them, give them some money so they can go to college and encourage them to get education. With that being said, thank you again for being here. We'll be seeing you for our next episode. God bless you. Bye-bye.